People call it weird. They call it antisocial. They ask you why you never want to come out, why you cancel plans without guilt, why you seem perfectly happy sitting alone in a quiet room while everyone else needs noise, people, and constant stimulation to feel okay. But what if the way you are wired is not a problem to fix? What if the people who love being alone are not missing something? What if they actually have something that most people will never develop? If you are someone who genuinely loves your own company, I want you to stay with me for the next few minutes. Because what psychology has discovered about people like you might completely change the way you see yourself. This is not a video about introversion as a label. This is a video about what being alone has quietly built inside you. Let's talk about the 4 rare traits you probably have. Number 1, you have an unusually strong relationship with yourself. Most people are deeply uncomfortable with silence, not because silence is painful, but because silence forces them to sit with their own thoughts, their own feelings, their own unresolved questions. And for people who have never learned to do that, silence feels threatening. But you are different. You have spent enough time alone that you actually know yourself. You know what you think before someone else tells you what to think. You know what you feel before someone else names it for you. A 2016 study published in the journal Social, Psychological, and Personality Science found that people who regularly spend time in solitude develop significantly higher self-concept clarity, a strong, stable, and consistent sense of who they are. And researchers consistently link this clarity to lower anxiety, higher confidence, and measurably better decision-making under pressure. While others are constantly looking outward for validation and direction, you have been quietly building a sense of identity from the inside. That is not antisocial behavior. That is one of the deepest forms of self-awareness a person can develop. And here is something most people will never admit out loud. Being alone is not the same as being lonely. For you, being around the wrong people feels far lonelier than any quiet room ever could. Number 2, you possess a rare and deeply developed creative mind. There is a reason so many of history's greatest thinkers, writers, and artists were known for their love of solitude. It is not a coincidence. It is neuroscience. Neuroscientist Mary Helen Immordino-Yang at the University of Southern California found that uninterrupted quiet time activates what researchers call the default mode network, the part of the brain responsible for imagination, creative thinking, and making sense of complex emotions and experiences. This network simply cannot fully activate when you are constantly surrounded by social stimulation. Your brain does its best work when you are alone. People who regularly seek solitude tend to be deeper thinkers. They process experiences more thoroughly. They make connections between ideas that others miss entirely. You are not someone who skims the surface of life. You dive. You turn things over until something true emerges. That is not overthinking. That is a rare kind of mental richness that most people never develop. Stop for a second. Think about the last time you had a genuinely original idea, a real insight, a moment of clarity that felt like it came from somewhere deep. I would be willing to guess you were alone when it happened. Number 3, you have a higher emotional threshold and a quieter inner strength. Here is something that rarely gets said about people who love solitude. They are often the strongest people in any room. Not in a loud or performative way, but in a deep, quiet, unshakable way. When you spend time alone regularly, you are forced to process your own emotions without outsourcing them. You cannot hand your anxiety to someone else to manage. You sit with it. You move through it. You find your own way to the other side. A landmark study by psychologist Esther Buchholz, published in her research on solitude and emotional development, found that people who practice regular solitude develop measurably stronger emotional regulation. They are less reactive under pressure, recover faster from setbacks, and maintain inner stability in circumstances that overwhelm others who rely on constant social support. When life gets hard, you do not fall apart waiting for someone to save you. You have a deep reservoir of inner strength that was quietly built every single time you chose to sit with yourself instead of running from yourself. And this is the part nobody talks about. Your solitude is not emptiness. It is a practice. Every quiet hour you have spent alone has been building something inside you that cannot be bought, borrowed, or faked. And I think on some level, you have always known that. Number 4, you choose depth over performance in everything you do. People who love being alone tend to have a very low tolerance for the performative side of life. The small talk that goes nowhere. The social obligations that drain without giving anything back. This is not rudeness. Psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, whose groundbreaking research on optimal experience and flow states showed that people with a high need for solitude consistently demonstrate what he called autotelic personality, an internally driven orientation toward meaning, depth, and genuine experience over external validation and social performance. You would rather have one conversation that actually matters than 20 that do not. You would rather spend an evening alone doing something that feeds your mind than an evening in a crowd feeling invisible. You would rather be truly known by a few people than vaguely liked by many. And when you do choose to show up, to engage, to let someone in, it means something. It is never automatic. It is never performed. It is always real. That is extraordinarily rare, and it says something profound about who you are. Loving solitude is not a flaw in your character. It is not something to apologize for or explain away or try to fix. It is one of the clearest signs that you have developed a relationship with yourself that most people will spend their entire lives chasing and never quite reaching. You are not antisocial. You are not broken. You are someone who has learned that the most important relationship you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. And you have been faithfully building that relationship every single time you chose solitude over noise. The world needs more people like you, not fewer. Which of these 4 traits resonated with you the most? Drop the number in the comments. 1, 2, 3, or 4. Let's find out which one hits closest to home for people like us. If this resonated with something in you, I would love for you to subscribe. Every week, we explore the psychology behind the traits and experiences that quietly make you who you are. Not to label you, but to help you understand yourself a little more deeply. Because the more clearly you see yourself, the more powerfully and peacefully you can move through the world. I will see you in the next one.